Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. I know some of y'all are probably going to be watching the Super Bowl. So I know that that's coming up. So we got the Chiefs and 49ers. I got the Chiefs for obvious reasons. So if you're going to watch the Super Bowl, hey, make sure you root for the Chiefs. That's all I'm going to say on that. I have my reasons for that. Um, But today we're going to be talking about the future, what the future is for African Americans, the African diaspora. And as you guys can see, I put the future is in Liberia for African Americans and the African diaspora. And there are a couple of reasons why I say Liberia is the future. One of the first major reasons why is because I've always been on Liberia and believed in Liberia's potential. So for me, the future was always going to be in Liberia. But for those who are just recent subscribers, who are new to this, may not know the reasons why Liberia is the future and what opportunities it has, I'm going to explain why it is the future. Then let's say somewhere like the Gambia or Tanzania or Kenya or Ghana, places that are a hotspot for some members of the African American community and the broader African diaspora. Before I begin, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I put that in the chat. Make sure you guys do that. Make sure you guys sign up to the website at bailoafricstan.org/register. We want you to become a member, and we want you to be a part of this movement. And if you can, please join us. Please support the Liberia Legacy Foundation, a partnership and joint venture between the BAIO and Save the State. You can donate to us. That would be greatly appreciated. We want you to know that all money that is donated to the Liberian Leadership Academy goes to the Liberian Leadership Academy. So make sure you guys do that so that we can continue to educate the young people in Liberia and continue to make an impact. With all that being said, let's get started. Let's get to it. So, what made me talk about this is we've seen the situations that have happened with the Pan-African Conference in Ghana. We see what Nana Akufo-Addo basically said to Secretary Anthony Blinken of the United States, that basically he was concerned about Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and that the U.S. needed to help stop them from working with Russia. We see the backlash that is happening in the Gambia. We're seeing all this stuff happening in the African continent that should raise some eyebrows for the African American community or have some second guesses. And so this promoted me to do this video and focus on the place that is the future, but is not really talked about. Is sort of a hidden gem, and that is Liberia. Now, Liberia, it has been getting a little bit more talk in mainstream African American thought, but it's not nearly enough. It's not nearly as ubiquitous as Ghana, the Gambia, Kenya, even Sierra Leone, South Africa. To a degree, is more of the hidden gem, or more of not talked about enough, or is not as ubiquitous, as widespread as those countries as I previously mentioned. And I'm here to tell you that Liberia is that best option. And I'm going to talk about some of the future opportunities, talk about the geography of the country, talk about the natural resources, what really the Black American and African diaspora community in general can benefit from a place like Liberia. So I really want to start first with talking about just some of the basic natural sights, beauty. One of the things that we as Black Americans love is we love connecting with nature, getting with the environment. And Liberia has a lot of that even more. It has a warm tropical climate, so that's beneficial for Black Americans. It's warm year round. It's actually a moderate temperature, 70 around the 70s to 80s. Rarely does it get in the 90s. Rarely does it fall deep into the 60s. Now, of course, that's along the coastline. If you go further into the interior towards Bone, towards Lofa, especially in the Lofa area where you have the mountain ranges, then it can get a little bit cold. But for the most part, Liberia has a very temperate tropical climate that would be suitable for Black Americans who are not wanting to deal with the weather that we see in Minnesota or in Detroit or in Buffalo or in Cleveland or in Wells or in Fargo if you are in the Dakota areas. So, or in Billings in Montana, although not many Black folks live in those areas, but still we do got Black people that live in those areas. Liberia offers that warm year-round temperature that would be appealing to the average African American. In terms of its natural site, it has places such as the Sapo National Park and the Mount Nimba, which also has, the Mount Nimba range. So let me show y'all what the Mount Nimba range looks like. So this is what the Mount Nimba range looks like. So here are just some pictures of what Mount Nimba looks like. So as you guys can see, Mount Nimba has a lot to offer. Hey, I mean, that is beautiful, beautiful to see. I love seeing it. It gives me so much joy, so much excitement, so much satisfaction to see a place like this, and it's a place that I definitely would want to go visit. Mount Nimba is here. So here are some pictures of Mount Nimba and why it's just such an appealing place for Black Americans who want to go into nature, who want to hike and do camping, go to the mountains. Mount Nimba would be that place for you to go to. But that's also not the only place. There are a couple more mountain places. You have Mount Watubi, which is the largest mountain in Liberia. This is the Mount Nimba Range. I want to make that distinction. And so you have that, which is beautiful. I mean, who wouldn't want to go there? Who would not want to go to Mount Nimba? Who would not want to just get a couple of pictures and be up there? Who wouldn't want to? Who wouldn't want to see that? But the Mount Nimba is not the only place. So Mount Nimba, you also have the Gola Rainforest, which is here. So here is a picture of the Gola Rainforest. So the Gola Rainforest is one of the most well-known spots in all of Liberia. Again, Liberia is a tropical rainforest-like environment, so there are lots and lots of rainforests to talk about. So here you have the Gola Rainforest. Again, beautiful, lot of trees, biodiversity. You have the lakes, the rivers, the streams. That would just be beautiful if you want to go see wildlife. If you're a person who's doing animal science, you're doing biodiversity, ecology, the Gola Rainforest would be a top prime destination for you if you are a Black American and you're into those things. You're into Mother Nature. Along with Mount Nimba, you have the Gola Rainforest. You also have Sapo National Park, which is also just as a beautiful place. This is Sapo National Park. It is the second largest rainforest in West Africa, outside of the rainforest in Ivory Coast. It has chimpanzees. It has elephants. It has pygmy hippos, which can only be found in Liberia. I mean, the Sapo National Park has so much. It's a protected place, so no logging, no illegal activity, no mining can happen in the area. So I really want to talk about just go through the pictures of what Sapo National Park would look like. Again, you have elephant, you have pygmy hippos, you have all different kinds of wildlife that is catered in Sapo National Park. And this is very important because, again, we value nature, we value the environment. These places would also be a great place for ecotourism. So if you want to do stuff that is tourism but also caters to the environment, these places would be a great place. They would be a great place to build communities and build a local economy. Now let's get to the other one. Here's one that came as a result of mining, but has become just a natural phenomenon. It's the Bomi Lake. It's the Bomi Blue Lake in Tubmanburg. I mean, it is beautiful. Again, it's a recent. It's a recent thing. It just came about in the 90s. But this is Bomi Blue Lake, one of the most iconic places in Liberia. Again, a lot it goes with the Gola Rainforest, the Sapo National Park, the Mount Nimbus of the world. I mean, Lake Piso, which is another great place to look at as well. I mean, this is another natural landmark. Again, it came as a result of mining eventually, and then eventually, natural water started to stream in, and it formed this lake. And now it's a site of beauty. It's a site of beauty. It's a place to visit if you're in Liberia. And then, of course, like I stated before, you got Lake Piso, which is in Liberia as well. So you got Lake Piso. You have so many different spots in Liberia that we can use for ecotourism. We can make ecotourism one of the major focal points of our economy. I mean, it's that special. Lake Piso has so much to offer. So those are just a few sites: Lake Piso, the Bomi Lake, the Gola National Forest, Sapo National Park, Mountain Nimba. We also have the Lofa Mano National Park as well. So make sure you guys leave your comments. Make sure you ask some questions. Make sure you include all of that into what we're doing. So just make sure that you're asking questions, leaving your comments, and I can answer them. So outside of natural resources, let's talk about geography. So Liberia is right because it's not that densely populated. And a lot of Liberia there's a lot of arable land. There's a lot of land for development. Most of the population lives in Monrovia. There's not that much major activity going on outside of Monrovia. I mean, you do have Mark Gibby, you do have, Buchanan and Grambassa, but other than that, not much significant economic activities going on outside the country. There's a lot of communities that are just economically depressed. And a prime example of this is just Sino. I mean, look at Sino County in Liberia. Sino County is one of the largest counties in Liberia, but it's one of the most least densely populated. There's not that much development going on in Sino County. There just isn't a lot. I mean, you can go to Sino County, you can go through Riverset, you can go to Grand Cru, you can go to Rivergy, and you'll see that there's Grand Jita, and there's just not a lot of development there. a lot of the communities are economically depressed, and that's because a lot of the economic activities geared in Monrovia. It's just geared to Monrovia. So this would be a great opportunity for African Americans who work in construction, who work with building materials, who work in manufacturing, who work in roadway design, for them to come and really develop the area south of Monrovia into Greenville, which is in Sino, Sesto City, which is in Riverside, Barclayville, which is in Grand Crew, Harper, which is in Maryland, as well as Plebo. You have Zowedru in Grand Jita. You have Fishtown and Rivergy. All these places can be developed by the African American community that would provide, land opportunities for African Americans in agriculture, and just for us to be able to build communities and build cities and build skyscrapers and really take Liberia to that next level of being a middle income, upper middle, and even a high income level economy. So we really need to be focusing, especially, on trying to share that wealth and expand that opportunities to all reaches of the country, not just Monrovia, not just before you hit Marshall, not just in Painesville, but in, again, the Fishtowns, Plebos, the Barclayvilles, the Greenvilles, Lexington, Sesto City, the even into Nimba with Ganta and Sanaquelli and Bone and Barpaloo with Bopaloo. All of these areas can use that economic development, and could use us coming in and really giving us stimulus to those local economies. I mean, Liberia has so much beautiful in terms of its terrain. It's beautiful. And let me just briefly bring up that point. I mean, look at how beautiful Sino is. This is Sino. So much opportunity there. So much. I mean, look at this. So much opportunity we can use to see that as an opportunity. So much. So much we can do with. Again, outside of Monrovia, not much is going on, and that gives us the right opportunity to come in and be those businessmen. And again, these are the areas where you have the capabilities of growing palm wine, cassava, mangoes, all the stuff that you need to be self sufficient. Again, you have the rubber, you have the diamonds, you have the gold, you have all rare minerals, rare earth minerals that could be used for us to finally be stable, be self sufficient, be self determined, control our own destiny. And I would also say this, that Liberia is only going to be the only place that's going to accommodate us. That is going to be easy to connect with in a way that Ghana, Nigeria maybe would not be the same. Hey, I'm not saying Ghana, Nigeria, like and the Gambia won't allow us to come, but it's not going to be the same as it's in Liberia, which is another example why the future is there. The accommodations, the ability to make sure we're able to succeed. That can only come from one place, and that's Liberia. Historical connection, that's Liberia. Allow us to build up domestic industry, that's Liberia. I've had Liberians refer to Black Americans as being Liberians. Liberia is the only place that we can be put at an advantage. It's the only place that gives us everything that we need, from scenery to ecology to natural resources to good geography. That is Liberia. Good climate. That is Liberia. Deontay said Liberian beauty. Indeed, it is. He also said peace. Peace, Dundada. Peace, Femi, one on one. And then here, I'm not for sure, brother, what the tax rate is. I think the tax rate is fairly low, given the circumstances. So I can't tell you exactly. I would have to do a little bit more research. He says, yeah, no snow in Liberia. Yep. If you don't want to have to deal with snow, you don't want to have to wear gloves or wear mittens or wear thick coats, then Liberia it is. Liberia it is. That is, oh my. I gotta remember. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Therefore, all hands need to be on deck for Liberia. All hands on deck. We need to have all hands on deck. When we have all hands on deck, we will be able to accomplish so much. We can turn Liberia into an oasis. We can make Liberia succeed. And the question is, do we want to succeed? Do we want the self-determination? Do we want the independence? That's what we have to ask ourselves. We have the resources, we have the landmarks, we have the history, we have the government, we can have the accommodations. We have to decide. It's what we want to do. We see what's going on in other African countries. We got to ask ourselves, where do we truly belong? That's all I have to say. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, or you want to come on. I'm going to give about 5 minutes. If not, then I will let everybody go. And again, I put the link in the description. So if you want to come on and talk and just give a little bit of your thoughts and opinion, you are free to do so. Hey Carl, how are you doing? The sister right here that puts in work all the time. So I just spent the last 27 minutes talking about opportunities, the beautiful sights that Liberia has to offer, from Bomi Lake to Mount Nimba to talking about Mount Matuli, the Gola National Rainforest. We can add in Providence Island, Sapo National Park. We talked about um, resources that are offered, and just the opportunity to be able to expand. Talking about what's currently been going on the continent, um, with what some African Americans are facing. So here we are. When is the next trip to Liberia? I'm trying to do this year, but we are trying next year, 2025, to get something started, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Born eternal Lord Allah. Thank you. Peace to you. So, yeah, again, if you want to go somewhere where it's not going to be too cold, because we know we as black folks, we don't like cold weather like that. Let's be real. There's nothing wrong with cold weather every now and then, but we want our warm weather. We want it year round. Liberia is a place for you on the coastline. Now, if you go to Mount Nimba, it can get a little bit cold, but not too cold. If you want access to cassava leaf, you want that jollof rice, you want access to grow palm wine, palm oil. I think those are the same thing. Um, Mangoes and tropical fruit. Liberia is that place. So if you want to be able to do ecotourism, especially with Sapo National Park and the Gola National Rainforest, it's for you. Hello, sister. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, you're doing a good job. You should be like heading a whole tourism company. I
I
would.
really should. It would be wonderful to do that. But yeah. Anything you want to elaborate? Because I showed them what Gola National Forest looked like, what the Bomi Lake looks like, Lake Piso, a great place. Just people understand the scenery that they're getting. You're not getting
Right.
somewhere that's out of the
I think.
bush
I think. I think.
quality.
Yeah, I think the tourism offers not just great opportunity for tourism as a tourist, but as a tourism investor, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to invest in ecotourism. We have to start looking at Africa as an opportunity to produce wealth, not just an opportunity to consume what other people produce. So while there's the natural environment, in order to make it attractive and comfortable and all the other things that go with ecotourism, I mean, ecotourism really is about you can have luxury ecotourism, which is what I like because I don't like being uncomfortable. You can have, where people actually rough it and do hiking and stuff like that. But there's just so much opportunity to develop um, business opportunities and to develop some type of sustainable wealth out of these untapped resources for African Americans. Liberia's always offered that. We had a period of instability, and that has passed. So at the dawn of stability is where all the opportunity is. So I love when people talk about, oh, go see this, go see that. I'm like, hey, go build this, go develop that. Instead of throwing resources into things that don't produce anything, you can look at places like Sapo National Park and say, you know what, I'm going to get a few people together and we're going to do a real, beautiful resort in the middle of this rainforest and attract the world here. Or I'll go, there's always these opportunities for these coastal ferries. Liberia has some of the most beautiful coastline on the planet. A coastal ferry where people can go along the coast and see all these great, magnificent beaches and cliffs and all. I mean, it's amazing. So there's lots of things that people can do or a group of persons can do. That's not just about going somewhere and spending money, but going somewhere, investing and growing your money and growing opportunities for other people as well. So there's a lot going on there's a lot that could be going on that isn't going on. And I think I'm with 100% of the people in Liberia when I say it's better for it to be African Americans doing this than to have, the Germans and the Syrians and everybody else come in first.
Mm-hmm.
They're already doing that. I mean, Libasa Eco Lodge is one of the most beautiful ecological lodges I've been to, and that's owned by Lebanese people, which is fine. I mean, I don't have an issue with that, but I would just like to see our people doing those kinds of things because they're making a killing off of Libasa. It's a beautiful luxury eco lodge. People are coming there from all over the world. That could have been us. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, it's if you don't develop it, somebody else will. You can't,
Hmm.
and then you can't get upset that they're making a killing off of it when, okay, what are you doing about it? What you could have done
Yeah.
about it? I
Now
mean,
they
you
don't. Yeah. Just to clarify, they don't actually own the land that Libasa is on. They lease it, and so they're
have.
leasing the land as African people in the diaspora. To get dual citizenship in Liberia is a very simple process. And if you get dual citizenship in Liberia, what you can do is purchase and own the land. You must get your citizenship first. So Liberia
Mhm.
does offer dual citizenship. You get your dual citizenship, you buy your land, you get your deed, and you develop it. It doesn't have to be an issue anymore of people leasing. So you have an advantage as a Black person in Liberia because others can't do that. They can't buy land, only you can. So it gives you an advantage. And Liberia was created for Black people to have an advantage. That's the whole purpose of the country. Is it was created for us, by us, right? The original FUBU.
Mhm. And that goes into one of the questions they were asking. They were asking, "Is it easy to get citizenship?"
Yes.
And it's there's your answer, brother. It's easy to get citizenship.
But the only thing is you have to be present. You can't do it remotely, right? You can't go online and order your citizenship like you ordering a pizza. You got to go there. But yes, dual citizenship is an act of law. You have every right as a person of the African diaspora to go to Liberia and take your birthright.
Yep. And look at what our brother Joe said. Isn't that something? An advantage just for us.
A almost 200-year-old advantage. I mean, it's like it's almost like a reparations kind of situation that we don't want to deal with. Like, well, we didn't ask for that. We wanted 40 acres and a mule here.
Hmm.
You are, they
It's one
they
though. It's
tricked us.
actually
They gave
interesting
us
that
our
you brought
40
that
acres.
up. It's interesting
Hmm.
you brought that up because brother Baruti brought that up as well. And if you read, some of the things that Bad to Africa people would ask as to why the U.S. government and other things should help, like allow African Americans to go back to Africa, was because they thought it was reparation. You took us here. You can at least repair the damage by being able to send us back to our home and allow us to build for ourselves.
Right.
And then he says, Jabari, attorney Philippe Lindsay said yesterday that U.S. blacks must declare being African to get intergenerational status in suing for reparations. Does Live plan fit with this paradigm?
Wait, what?
You're going to have to explain that, Baruti. You're going to have to explain that a little bit more.
Sometimes it's better just come on and talk.
Yep. He says that's exactly what it is. It's reparations. I still want that reparations money, reparations check. I just think that it simplifies it. It simplifies. It makes it so much easier
I
because
mean,
all
you
you
could do both, right? It doesn't have to be either or. Hell
yeah,
yes. The descendants of enslaved people deserve monetary reparations.
Exactly.
They deserve land sovereignty. They deserve so many things. Um, all Liberians, all the people of Liberia, based on what's been done to that place, deserve reparations. Haitians deserve reparations. I mean, it's like it's layered. The world could, if the world could afford, which it cannot afford, to repair the damage that's been done to African people for their benefit, not the benefit of Africans, but the benefits of those who damaged generations of our people and exploited us, they don't have the resources to repay us fully. But
Mhm.
doesn't mean we shouldn't demand it, and we shouldn't understand that we deserve it. Whether it's paid or not is not the issue. We need to understand it's owed. The African people can't even agree that it's owed. I hear black people, these ADOS people, oh, only the African Americans who were descendants of slaves here. Do you know how slavery worked? They were selling slaves from the Caribbean to North America and back and forth and breeding folks. Like, you don't know who. There's people in Jamaica whose ancestors were slaves in Mississippi and then sold to Jamaican plantations later on. Or you don't know. It's like people don't understand history. So
Mhm.
there's enough damage to the African world to go around.
Mhm.
You don't have to be fragmenting. Oh no, only we deserve as if to say if there's fewer numbers of people demanding reparations, that means that it's gonna actually happen. That's not how it works. It's not a zero sum game of pain and misery, right? So the reparations is not supposed to be based on, well, I heard somebody say Umar Johnson's grandfather wasn't African American, therefore he don't deserve reparations. Shut up. Shut up. Stop trying to look for reasons to marginalize people and measure pain. It's like uh,
It's
what do you
cold.
call
It's cold. It to me, it's just straight on cope for me because it's one of those things that it's worth special. It's trying to make them feel special or unique. You're not one.
everybody's special and unique, yo, but everybody's been through some shit at the hands of white supremacy, and we got to stop acting like other people went through more shit than other people. That ain't even possible to measure.
Mhm.
So, and our folks are all, I mean, listen, there's African Americans in this country whose ancestors were never enslaved and they've been here for generations. We forget about people like the father of EJ Roy. If EJ Roy had never went back to Liberia, went back to Africa, EJ Roy would be an African American, his descendants would be African American, and they would have never been descendants of slaves if they had married other people just like themselves. The other fallacy is that all the black people in America are descendants of slaves that have been here since before the American Revolution. That's not true. There are black
Mm.
people who were here before the American Revolution who were not enslaved, but they suffered greatly at the hands of these oppressive devils. So you can't use slavery alone as a measure.
Yeah,
And you
no.
can't use who was here before the Revolutionary War as a measure because
Well,
everybody
I
wasn't
mean,
enslaved. Go ahead.
my thing is, if you even use before the revolution, you would have to exclude majority of African Americans because most African Americans did not arrive into the U.S. until the 1780s and 1790s when the slave trade was at its peak. Like people think
Exactly.
the transatlantic slave trade just started off like at this same pace and it was just cruise control. It started off small in the US. By the 1750s, 1760s, it jumps. And then the 1780s, 1790s, we're at peak slave trade. So you
Yep.
can't even use that as a barometer. That's why to me,
And exactly. And it was also, I want to add, it was also during the period after 1808, 1809 that the intra-American slave trade took off because the transatlantic slave trade stopped. And what you had was the breeding grounds in places like Barbuda, which is Antigua Barbuda, not the island of Bermuda, but Barbuda was a breeding ground. And a lot of African Americans are descendants of people who were bred on the island of Barbuda because the transatlantic slave trade has stopped. So now you've got these breeders coming in and selling human beings from the Caribbean. And then so you can't, and that's in the 1800s. That's fairly recent. So you can't say, oh, well, it's just no, a lot of plantation people were brought over from Caribbean islands in great numbers. And then you have, after the abolition of slavery, after the US Civil War, you have migration of labor, African laborers who were just as, basically almost coming as some form of indentured servants that came into the United States and were working in the northeastern states and things like that. So really, to even make these arguments, you got to understand where the Black people in America came from, when they came, and how they got here. Everybody didn't come in 1619. Everybody didn't follow the same path to be an American.
Mm-hmm.
And a
Yep.
lot of the people who talking this Adolf stuff don't even know their own great grandparents.
Yep.
They don't even know their own great grandparents. They think if everybody didn't come in age, I mean, you could just look at people and be like, "What are you talking about?" We got a lot of our Gullah Geechee brothers and sisters that came in the late 1700s,
Yep. I mean, you
and
got
my
like I talked about with Gullah Geechee. You got people as far back as my grandmother, who she was born in '39, who had African names, could speak African language, some African languages, although they didn't know what it was. They had ancestors who were from Africa that they could recall and could rename. I mean, we act like we are that far removed from Africa. We're not really that far removed from Africa if we really want to be honest. If your
yeah,
grandmother was alive like mine was in 39, in the 30s and 20s, they knew people who were slaves in their lifetimes. If they were born in 1840 and your mama and your grandmother was born in 1920, 1930, they knew somebody who was born in the 1840s, 1850s, and 1860s.
yep, they knew. Listen, I remember this lady Ruby Powell. She was my a good friend of mine's mother, but her mama was much older than mine. Her mom had her in like her late 40s or something. But Ruby's grandmother, Ruby's grandmother was born a slave, and Ruby's great grandmother was born in Africa. And I'm like, how? I said slavery wasn't abolished, was abolished, and the transatlantic slave trade was abolished. He said no, they were still bringing people from Africa in the 1830s and 40s. And so I didn't even understand that was it was so prevalent, that the illegal slave trade before the Civil War was so prominent. I think what was the last slave ship was brought over in 1860 something.
Yeah, 1860. The
Yeah, in
Clotilda. Yeah.
1860. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't even realize that, was that prominent. I thought it was like a rare thing that most of them were coming from the Caribbean. And when she said that, I was thinking maybe they brought her, her grandmama and them from the Caribbean, and she just thought it was Africa. But no, she was right. Because the more I started learning about the transatlantic slave trade, I'm like, these fools were still bringing people over here in the 1830s and 40s and 50s. Like, what the heck? I mean, that's absurd. And we have to realize also that a lot of the people later on, after 1819, the law was passed that people could be repatriated. Because initially, when they would capture illegal slave trade ships, they would hold them in tribunal. And then, especially if you came into Savannah or Georgia or a slaveholding state, they would still sell you into slavery to pay for court costs. That was the excuse. So they'd be like, oh, yes, we established that this ship came from Africa illegally, but we've got to pay the court costs, so we're going to auction these people off. So that happened. And then they said, okay, no, this is wrong. The federal government stepped in and said, no, it's wrong. If people are brought over illegally, you got to free them. So these Africans would be freed, and they'd be sent to these northeastern states. And their descendants are still here. So they shouldn't get reparations. I mean, what we go, it's like such a stupid conversation. You know what I'm saying? So if you were a recaptured African and you were not repatriated to Africa and your descendants remained here, most of them didn't get repatriated to Liberia. Most of them remained. And they're still in places like New York. They're not descendants of people who worked on the plantations. So how do you, and some of them walking around don't even know that.
What if you're an African American who's from the Dominican Republic, Samana, whose ancestors left Philadelphia in the 1800s? They went to the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and their descendants are still there today, and they come back to the United States, and they were here for 20 years, and they say, listen, man, my ancestors come back here. I can trace it. I actually have documentation.
What about the people that went to Panama and never came back? What about the Talberts and the Tubmans and the Johnsons, right? And all these people that are in Liberia, they can't come back. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. We got to stop this pettiness that we do. Always looking for reasons to divide one another and like look for reasons to separate ourselves into weaker, smaller units. Always trying to separate ourselves into weaker, smaller units so we can be stepped on even harder. It's dumb, just dumb. The rest of the world trying to consolidate power. We over here trying to look for reasons to cut off our arms and legs and enter a war. Nonsense.
And we're entering a war for what? It's emotional feel good politics, because it's not like you control anything. It's not like you have any power, you have any leverage. You're just doing this for feel good. It makes you feel comfortable. It's like somebody was I saw this tweet that was really, really on point when he was talking about they saw it was like these white Asian students that were basically doing like HBCU like dance. And then the black woman in the tweet said that we should gatekeep. And a brother responded and said, you can't gatekeep without a gate. In order to have a gate, you gotta have something you own. So you're upset that they're at PWIs, white Asian students are appropriating black culture, but you want to bring that set culture to these white institutions, and then that you don't own, you don't run, and then get upset when they say, hey, we want to incorporate that or we want to appropriate that. I mean, in order to gatekeep, you got to have a gate. In order to have a gate, you got to have some property. You got to have something you own.
You need land. Land is everything. Sovereignty is tied to land. Freedom's tied to land. You can't be free in the sky. Maybe when you die, but not now. Right here, freedom's tied to land. Freedom is tied to land.
Mm-hmm. That's why, and that's why I've said, I know some people are going to disagree with me, but I've always said it. I've always been one of the strongest opponents of reparations, but I've always said that you're not getting reparations without a nation state. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get reparations without a nation state. And Baruti, I think I get what you're saying, that yes, I think our plan does go with it. Our reparations plan. One, it shows that yes, we do identify with Africa. We identify with the land that we established in Africa, and we went back to Africa for that reason, because we are African. So I would just say, Baruti, I think it absolutely does. Yeah, I mean, you can't gatekeep without a gate. Like you say, we need to gatekeep black culture with what? Tell me the production studios, the music platforms that we own, we control, we have copyrights that the average American is using. And we're mad and upset that our culture is being incorporated or appropriated. You can't drive a car without keys. And in order to have keys, you got to have access to something that you own, that you control. You got keys to a house. Why? Because you own, most likely you own or you live there. You have some stake in that. I don't just have a key just to have a key. The key has to open up something. It has to lead to something. I can't have a gate. I can't gatekeep if I don't have a gate. The gate has to lead to somewhere. Point being, and this all goes into the point being, our future is in Liberia. Whether we want to admit it or not, our future is in Liberia. We can put our heads in the sand and pretend it's not there. We can pretend that it don't exist. That's the reality. You can't have keys to nothing. You can't have keys just to have keys. Okay? The keys have to open something. They have to have access to something that you control, that you own. You can't gatekeep something that you don't have a gate to. And you need to have property. Once you recognize that and once you get to that point, you will be fine. Everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah. Jabari, you on point 100%. You're trying to gatekeep air. But so LIB, brother, I just read that comment. LIB does not have anything to do with anything serious. I think it's something that people started doing after the war out of ignorance. LIB does not, those letters are not Liberia's country code. Liberia's country code is LBR.
We are, yep.
The 3-letter country code is LBR. The 2-letter country code is LR, and the universal license plate code is LB. There is no such thing as LIB. It's just something that hip-hop artists started saying in the early 2000s, and it kind of stuck, but it doesn't mean anything. So before some of y'all go use that in the academic world, there's no such thing as LIB. maybe it's the 3-letter country code for Libya
It's
or something.
LBR.
I don't know. But Liberia's LBR,
No, LIB.
LR, and LB. That's it. That LIB, yo, that's like some weird street stuff. It's got nothing to do with nothing. LIB does not equal Liberia.
Yep. He said reparations. He says reparations is a lineage thing. Your lineage doesn't cease to exist because you move or because you go by a different label. That is
That's
something
right.
I'm telling people.
Bam. And not only just a lineage thing, I'm trying to think of where in the world there's Black people who aren't owed reparations by somebody in Europe or America. Like it's like beyond my understanding how we're even trying to act like everybody didn't universally suffer the most horrific degradation, the longest Holocaust in human history, the longest, and then the dehumanization continues. And we sit here and act like, hell, those of us that were born and are alive today deserve reparations for the hell we've been through in our lifetimes. You're talking about the hell our parents and grandparents and great grandparents went through. How many of you grew up in communities? How many of us, period, grew up in communities that were intentionally infested with drugs and guns that we don't manufacture? And how many of us were witness to some of the most horrific violence? How many of us were poisoned in school lunches because we lived in a certain school district and they were giving us trash food that ended up giving us cancer and other things? Like, how many of us that grew up in our lifetimes are not owed reparations for the intentional shit that was done to us? They can't even pay that. Doesn't mean we shouldn't say that we know we're owed it. I'm owed reparations for the numerous times I got pulled over, harassed, and traumatized by police for no fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
How many Black people don't get a freaking panic attack just from seeing people who their tax dollars are paying to be out there to protect them? When they see them, they freak the hell out. These are reparations for being forced to live under siege all the damn time. Anybody that says that the African people don't need reparations needs their head checked. Especially those who live in this country.
Yeah. Okay, Baruda, I get your point. My thing is, they don't want to. Honestly, again, I go back, Broody. It's a power struggle. Like it's a power trip. They want to make them feel like they got some power or some say by denying they're African. They want to act like they special, acting like they're making some power move by saying we need stuff for our community. So they're doing, like, to me, a power trip. That's what it is.
How is it a power trip? It's a powerless trip. It's what you gonna do, cut yourself off from your roots and to say that you demand justice because of your roots. How does that make sense? You cut
That's
off
what
your
that's
roots.
what it,
Then I need justice because I once had these roots I no longer identify with, but the reason I need the justice is because of these roots. It makes no sense. We just like to follow shit. Go join a fraternity or something. Stop putting yourself in the African world politics and politics, period. If you don't understand the world, go join. If you want to be part of a clique, go join a clique. Go do some tap dancing or some shit that makes you feel like you belong to something. Go join a motorcycle club. Stay the hell out of politics and history and stuff. You don't have the intellectual or the knowledge, wisdom of global understanding to even be having a voice in this shit because you haven't studied it. Most of these people just get online and want to be part of something, be cool, have some friends. A lot of ways to make friends, man. Get your mouth out of things you don't understand. That's what I tell them. You don't understand something, stop talking about it. The shit you like sports. Go join a fan club somewhere. Go follow the, 49ers. Get out the way. Get out of people's way with all the noise. Quit being a distraction.
but that's what they are. That's what they take pride. They take pride in being loud and stupid. That's
Loud
what they
and wrong. Yeah, loud and wrong. If you're not taking action, you're a distraction. And that's bad. You all these damn counter revolutionaries popping up doing the man's work, popping up, derailing the movement at every opportunity they get. Bunch of attention seekers. Their inaction is a distraction, just talking, 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 taking up, headspace and airwaves and time and energy. We shouldn't even be discussing that nonsense anymore.
they care about being loud and wrong. That's what they care about. Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm Yeah, like I always tell people, reparations are, we don't even have to go far back as slavery. We can do Jim Crow, we can do redlining, we can do the war on drugs, we can do mass incarceration. Like, we don't even have to go back that far to make the case for
No, we
reparations.
should. What I'm saying, I hear you, Jabari. I'm not saying we shouldn't go back that far. I'm saying we need to claim for all of it.
Oh yes, I'm saying that. But when people say, "Oh, well, we don't owe you reparations because I wasn't a slave," okay, fine. If you want to do that logic, then by very nature, we ain't even got to do that. We can go here, 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 here. Point being, you owe us reparations. Like they can try
Hmm.
how many they can move the goalposts and all these back to owe us reparations. Oh, well, I wasn't alive when I was a slave. Okay, fine. We can do Jim Crow. Well, I wasn't born when Jim Crow happened. Well, my mama was. My grandma was.
Hmm.
Either way.
Yep, that's what it is. I mean, it's lineage. It's your own personal experience. It's all of that. It's all of it. And damn it, claim all of it. Stop looking for reasons for other people not to claim shit and worry about yourself.
hmm
Worry about what you're owed. Ain't nobody taking nothing from you. Justice is not a zero sum game. But you know how like that scarcity mentality. There's just, like somebody just, killed one. There's just one chicken. That's all we got is one chicken. And all them people over there, they didn't run after the chicken. They can't have none. Like we living in some barbaric scarcity time. That's not what this is about. It's not about scarcity and trying to keep other people out. It's such a pathetic disposition to have in this world. Such a pathetic disposition. Oh, we gotta make sure it's just ours. Other people trying to get our shit. Just think about what your mindset has to be to even think that way. It's crazy. Greatness comes from solidarity. It comes from having people's back and people having your back. You're too weak by yourself. That's why you have communities. That's why you bond with other people and grow with other people, because you're weak by yourself. Save the State was weak by itself. That's why it networked with BAIO. We needed that interjection. It couldn't just you can't stand alone and be walking around here trying to, be Andre the Giant. Just raw, I'm just a giant. A big goofy giant just passing around by yourself, just pumping up, getting not a damn thing done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So inaction is a distraction. You have to keep moving.
Mm-hmm. It's like also we're not, and also it's the we're not gonna do anything until we get reparations type stuff. And I'm just like, okay, fine. We're owed reparations. In the meantime, what are we doing? Well, we're not
Sitting
gonna do it.
around and talking and distracting the people that are working. And honestly, we should stop trying to convince people to stop talking. Let them talk. What we should do is stop listening to it. Close our ears to it and keep focused on what we're actually doing, because what we're doing is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So why are the action people worried about the inaction people and what they think? We shouldn't be. It shouldn't even be on the table for discussion. We should be talking about what we're doing, what we're moving, the mountain that we're moving. Not the people that watching us moving the mountain. They ain't talking about us. They're not giving us free airtime and our ideas free airtime. We shouldn't be giving theirs. We should, at this point, we should even stop scrutinizing the nonsense they doing and focus on what we are actually doing, which is making a profound impact that'll that'll actually carry forward into the future. We're cultivating, we're planting seeds, we're producing something. That's what we should be thinking about. We have a whole academy of leadership, the future leaders, the future senators, the future ministers, and ministers of education and transport, and the future presidents, vice presidents, judges, lawyers, teachers and principals, and all of these people that are going to be running the country in 10 years, 15 years, are passing through our leadership school. That's the goal. And to give them an understanding of their connection to the African diaspora and the importance for us to be united. That's what we're doing. It's not hard, and it
Mm-hmm.
works, because these are the very people that are going to be running the country tomorrow. And they're going to be reaching out to African Americans and say, hey, we've got land grants. Come home. We understand the assignment. 10 years is nothing. 15 years is nothing. It's no time at all. All the time people sit around complaining and picking their noses since the 90s. Most of us been, I'm talking about your generation, but my generation, we've been talking crap since the 90s. We thought it was hip. People walking around, listening to freaking De La Soul and acting like they were so woke, and they still doing the same thing now. Still talking. If we had done what we're doing now 10 years ago, the ground would already be ready. If we had done it 20 years ago, the ground would be ready. You talking about 30 years ago? Come on, man. We had started this. I mean, I wasn't really old enough in 92, but there were people who were, right? And if they had started this in 92 or even 2002, where would we be today in 2024? So we shouldn't let more time pass because shit wasn't done 20 years ago and say, well, I mean, this isn't something that's going to take 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
These folks are already on their way to taking power and running a country. Let's deal with it now. Ain't that how they got Africa confused? They got the future leaders, gave them scholarships, took them to their schools, brainwashed them, and sent them back.
Yeah.
to be their agents. Why we can't reverse that? These are tactics. Tactics work. So we already know the tactic. So therefore we have the remedy because we understand how it's done, how they keep Africa backwards, how they keep African leaders, in tap shoes. We know how they do it. So what do? We get to the leaders before they do when they're still emerging. It ain't hard. They know how to spot them. So do we. It's really not rocket science.
Hmm. And I'm just going to say this, as we said before, you can't build power without land and a sovereign entity.
You
Period.
can't, and you can't do the shit alone. You can't be doing no us versus them nonsense. What I love about this project that BAIO and Save the State are doing is you've got African Americans and they're saying these are our young people, these are our kids, these are our little brothers and sisters that we're mentoring. They're not somebody else's. They're not looking at the Liberian young people like these are others. They're like these are our people. And in turn, those young people are seeing Jabari and Brother Holub and everybody else as their people. That's power. That's power.
Hmm.
That's
You
what you
have.
call investment.
Hmm. Yep. You
That
have
is
to
what
prepare to run society. You
that is
have
what
to.
you call investment. And when then tomorrow be like, oh, I got connections. I could come in and work with people. Oh yeah, I know these brothers. They mentored us before. That's how it works, y'all.
Hmm. Reality will hit. Whether you like it or not, you can't stop reality. And the
Hmm.
reality of it is unless you are doing something, unless you are trying to build up our home, you ain't doing anything. You can keep whining all you want to, but that ain't gonna get you access to land. That's not gonna give you access to any sort of control of your own life. You can get mad at it. You may not like what
Hmm.
I say, but it's reality. As I
Hmm.
always said this before, gravity doesn't care what you think. When you fall off, if you fall off a window or a roof, you're going down. Gravity
Yep,
could care less what you think. It's reality.
that's
You either
right.
adjust to it or you fall down. The reality of it is our future is going to be with the development and growth of Liberia. Period. You can either join the wave, adjust and adapt, or you can be left behind.
Right.
Because, like I stated, black wealth in America is going to hit zero by 2053. It's 2024. Do you want to spend the next 30 years seeing your wealth go to zero? I'm just saying.
See, the thing is, Jabari, most black people's wealth is at zero or even in the negative. Most black people are in debt. Most black people owe more than they own. Most
Mm,
Americans owe more than they own. And then we at the bottom of that. I'm not talking about individuals who live in the suburbs and have been financially responsible and blah. I'm talking about the majority.
Yeah, no.
The majority of our people owe more than we own in a country that people built for for free and by force. That is the reason we call for reparations. However, your destiny cannot be in somebody else's control. Doesn't mean don't demand it. Demand
Hmm.
it and still do what you can do with what you have. I work in the financial industry. I see what's going on. I see when our people come in those doors and their consumer debt is more than their annual income between credit cards and automobile loans and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you owe 65,000 on a car and you make 50,000 a year. How? Oh, my so and so co-signed. Okay. And your rent is how much? And you don't have a mortgage. You don't have any property appreciating in value. You've got children. You got to buy food. How the hell you living? That's why everybody on the edge. The money we spending to look like we got shit, we could be spending to actually have shit.
Thank you.
You gonna pay $1,100 for a car so that other people can see you in it, or you could buy some land.
With actual resources that you can actually make a living off of.
You could buy some land. You know what I'm saying? It's like we do some weird stuff, man. People force their kids to move out the house. My
You
kids,
could
my kids will move out the house when they good and ready. I'd rather they live in my house and not pay me no damn rent and buy something. Buy something. Get a rental property. You get that rental property and stay at home and let that value start going up.
Mm-hmm.
You got how much you save? Okay, we're gonna go to Liberia, we're gonna buy you a piece of land in your great grandfather's home near Lake Piso in Grand Cape Mountain County in Liberia. Okay, we're gonna fence this property. Here's your deed. This is yours. You own it. When you get some more money, you build your little house on it, a little at a time. And when you're done, it's yours. Simple stuff. Take your
Mm-hmm.
little kids. My little 6-year-old and my 8-year-old last year, when we garden, plant a seed and watch it grow. It teaches young people, it teaches kids that they can control something, that they can produce something, that the works of their hands can bear fruit. Simple stuff. When Black folks grew up on farms, they were more innovative. They had higher self esteem because they knew that the fruit of their hands was a thing. Why the hell I'm going to drive around here in $100 and something thousand car? Why would I do that? Why would I do that? For what? Who am I trying to show off to? If I have to pay interest on a loan for $100,000 for transportation, are we crazy? We crazy. That's all I can say about that. I mean, if you Jay-Z, that's nothing. But if you're making 100,000 a year, you shouldn't be borrowing that much, except maybe for your house. You're making $100,000 a year. Live within your means. Be comfortable. I'm not for discomfort. I'm not saying move into a cramped space that you can't stretch your legs in, but use your money wisely. And where you gonna get the most bang for your buck? Liberia. And even if you're scared to buy land in Africa, buy some land where you at. That's all I'm saying. I'd much rather see somebody say, "Oh, I just bought 20 acres in Morrow, Georgia," than, "Oh, I just bought myself a brand new, you know, Lamborghini, blah, blah." Shut up. You can't eat that. You can't eat no Lamborghini. You can't do anything with that but get from A to B like you would in a damn Nissan. That's all I'm saying. Why? So you driving down the highway, people look. So the pleasure you get out of somebody looking at you in a car is what you doing all of that for? That's crazy. You
Go to
want attention, pay
Liberia.
it.
You
Yeah,
could be
you
the
want
first.
attention. First of all, you want attention, pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to yourself first. But anyway, let me get off my soapbox. I love y'all. Talk to y'all later.
No problem.
Gary. Okay, peace, everybody.
And that is the mic drop right there. We have to focus on actually owning stuff. Liberia is our inheritance, and we have the right to build it. That is where our future is going to be at. And we can either use it to our advantage, or we can keep ourselves stuck in this quicksand and sink and suffocate. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you comment down below. Tell us what you think. Sign up to the website at baiafghanistan.org. We got the book club and a lounge coming on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have the lounge going. I know this is the Super Bowl as well, so if you are watching the Super Bowl, we will also be keeping track of that. So you can come in the lounge and still be watching your Super Bowl game. Um, but yeah, that's the mic drop right there, y'all. Liberia is our future. We have so many resources, we have so many landmarks, and we can either take advantage of that, what is rightfully ours, the people that are there with us that we have a strong connection with, or we can continue to not have anything and struggle. And I choose to own something that is rightfully mine and take value in the beautiful sights, minerals, natural resources that we possess. And with that, y'all, I wish y'all a good Sunday. Watch your Super Bowl. And yes, Discord. It's on the Discord. And I will holla back at y'all in the next video. Peace, fam.